Padlet is a digital bulletin board used to organize information, manage a project, or to show your thinking. It can be used to create a quick bulletin board of ideas, a blog, or a portfolio. It's very user-friendly and allows for collaboration with others. To get started, you'll simply go to Padlet.com. If it's your first time here, you will need to create an account, and at that point you will notice that there is a free version and then a paid version. The free version provides you with all the same tools. Your limitation is that you can only create 3 boards. What I'm going to do next is share with you some examples of how you might use Padlet, and then we'll start at the beginning and create a board from scratch. The first board I'd like to share was created using the Canvas format. This format is typically used or often used when folks are brainstorming. And so the participants or the students simply double-click anywhere on the board and a post-it note appears. They record their thinking, and you will notice that there's not really any organizational structure to the post-it notes. They simply land where they land on the page. And again, oftentimes used with brainstorming. This is another board that uses the Canvas format. In this case, an image was added to the background and students were asked to look at the picture and reflect on what each soldier might be thinking. They then added a post to record their thinking. The author of each post could then drag and drop their own post to the soldier whose perspective they captured. This next example is showing the grid format. This is more structured, and when people add a post-it note, it snaps it to the grid, and so the visual is that it looks as though it's in some organized columns. This next example is an example of a board using the shelf format. You will notice that at the top of each column there is a header or a title, and then the user can click on the plus symbol below each shelf, each column, and add content to that. And so depending on how much content, if there's a lot like there is under strategies, it creates a scrolling list, but it helps to organize the thinking. What you'll notice on this board here is that it's simply a collection of resources. There are no comments. It's simply resources that have been organized underneath these column headings. This next example also uses the shelf format. The difference here is that it was set so that the participants can comment on each of the posts. And so what you'll notice here is that a post was generated and then participants have commented on that post. And that's a feature that can be turned on or off. But you'll notice again, it looks like columns and there's a header at the top of each shelf. This next example is an example using the stream format. And this might be something where it looks almost like a blog. And it's a scrolling view of content. And that content, as you can see, can be images, pictures, and a variety of other things as well. This next board is an example of the back channel format. And this is where you can create almost like a discussion board. And the end user, the students, can simply add comments and then it will run in chronological order of a chat. Another example here is using the map format. So you can import a map into the background of your Padlet, and then you can add different locations using Google Maps. And when you click on any one of these, in this particular case, it's showing the most populous cities in the world. And then the last format that you might choose to create is the timeline. And so this format allows you to generate a timeline for various content. It has some flexibility built into that as well. So those are examples of different formats that you can choose. So what we're going to do now is create a Padlet. To do that, we want to be on our dashboard, and our dashboard is sort of our home base for getting started and also to access other Padlets that either you've created or have been shared with you. On this dashboard, you can see the latest update. So if you look on each board, you can see how long ago an update was last made. Over here on the left, I can see just the Padlets that I've created. I can click on shared and look at those Padlets that have been shared with me. If there's been any that I've liked, which I don't, and then any that have been archived. And so I'm going to keep it on the ones that I've made, and I'm going to make a new one. And so to do that, I'm going to click on this bright pink button that says Make a Padlet. And here's where we can see all of the different formats that I previously shared as examples with you. Getting started, we're going to start with the canvas. And this will display a new board. It will have an automatically generated color. Sometimes it will automatically generate an image. It comes up with sometimes humorous title. In this case, it says My Luminous Padlet Made with a Wish on a Star. And Padlet is smart enough to know that you probably don't want their default settings, and so it automatically pops up with the settings bar here. And so we're going to modify it. And so I'm going to name the title of this Digital Resources. So maybe I'm going to add a couple, and this might be a board that maybe I'm going to share with others and get their thinking as well. So you do want to think about what your purpose is for your board. And so I'm going to put a title there. I can add a description if I want. I'll say share your favorite resources to get your students excited about reading. So another thing that you can do is you can choose an icon. You don't have to have one, but if you do choose one, it will appear to the left of the title. And to do that, I'll just simply click on None. I can choose one of the built-in emojis, or I can add my own here at the bottom. I'm going to use one that they already have because I'm just simply looking for a book. So I'm going to add those books there. And I'll click the back button to go back. Here's a link that I'll use to share it. I'll come back to that in a moment. But here's where I can make a couple design choices. So by default, it popped up with a lovely brown. I'm going to change that. Click on that there. Now it does come with some that are built in. You can pick and choose, or you can add your own. I'm going to use one that they already have, and I'm going to use textures. I tend to like the textures, so I'm going to choose this blue. And now my background looks a little bit more friendly. I can choose to change the color scheme. I'm going to leave it by white as default, but you can invert it to black. And then you've only got a couple of choices here, but you can make some choices around the font. And if you notice, the title is changing based on what font I choose. And so I'm going to actually leave it on the default font, but you have a few choices there. And then again, you have to think about what the purpose of your board is. How do you plan to use it? So in my case, I'm thinking about adding a couple of digital resources myself. This is a board that I'm going to share with others to get their thinking as well. And so when I'm thinking about that, I think about attribution. Do I want the participant name to automatically be displayed when they add a post? If you do not, then you can leave it off. If you do, you want to turn that on. Do you want to give participants the ability to comment on each other's posts? Yes, turn it on. No, leave it off. Do you want your participants to be able to react to the post of others by being able to like them or give them a star? I'm going to leave that off as well. And then these last two are particularly helpful if you are thinking that this is a board you're going to share with students and you want students to add their thinking to the board. And so do you want to have those posts be moderated first before they go live to the world? Do you want to filter profanity and replace with nice emojis instead? So again, these are things that you can choose to turn on or off. It comes down to what your purpose is and who you plan to share it with. For the sake of this example, I'm thinking that this is something I'm going to share with educators, so I'm going to leave those off because I feel like they are professional. So that's it for these choices. I can say next, and it's going to let me know I'm all set, and I can start posting. There are 4 ways that you can add a post to this board. The simplest way is to just double click anywhere on the screen and a new post appears. Another way is to click on this pink plus button in the bottom right corner, and again, a post appears where you can type. You can simply copy a link and I'm not clicking on anything. What I'm simply doing is I'm doing Control V to paste, and that link automatically got pasted as a post to this board. And then the fourth way would be if my screen was a little bit moved over, I could simply drag and drop something from my desktop. And so I'm going to delete this one for the moment. Yes, I do want to delete that. So I'm going to simply double click anywhere on the board to get a clean post. And by default, it showcases the blinking cursor for the title, prompting me to add a title. And for the sake of this example, I'm going to say the Michigan E-Library. I can leave the text description blank. I can add a single sentence. I can add a paragraph. I can add a list. There's not really a limit to what I can put into here, but for the sake of this example, I'm just going to keep it short and say this is an excellent free resource for Michigan residents. Now at this point, if I click off, there's my post. Because I'm the author of it, I can drag it into a new position. It's not snapping to a grid because I did not choose that format. If I want to add more to this, I simply double click on it to bring myself back into editing mode. And then I've got some additional options here. I can use the upload arrow here to upload an image. I can add a link for this. I can search for images. I could take a picture. And then if I click on the three dots here, I get some more choices. And so I once again see my upload arrow, I see the link, I see the Google, and I see the Snap. So these four are the four that are identified in the bottom. But then I have some additional ones. I can capture video from my camera. I can add a voice recording. I can record my screen like a screencast like I'm doing right now. I can draw an image. I can place a location, or I can link to another Padlet. And so it's very versatile. It's very user-friendly. It just depends on what it is that you want to include. So what I'm going to do for the sake of this example is I'm going to upload an image that I have saved on my desktop. And once I've done that, it only does let you upload one attachment. So I can't do a video and also an image. If I wanted to do that, I would have to create another post. But for the sake of this, I just want the visual that shows the logo for the Michigan E-Library, otherwise known as MEL. And so what I'm going to also do here is I do want to add a link to this though. And so I'm going to just type mel.org, highlight it, which brings me the formatting toolbar that only appears when you've highlighted something. And then I'm going to click on the link here. And at this point is where I am going to add the website. And then I'll click on link, click off, and I now have a post that includes a title, some text, a link, and an image. And at this point again, because I'm the author of this post, I can drag and drop that into any location. So it's really that simple. Regardless of what format you've chosen, you add a post, the formatting options, the ability to add the attachments is the same for all of them. Once you're done creating your board and you've got your appearance settings set the way that you want, it's ready to be shared. So to do that, you're going to go to the upper right hand corner, click on that share button, and you can decide if you want to add collaborators on this board with you. So if you wanted to, you could add members and type in their username. And if they're another Padlet user, their name will pop up for you. And in this case, I'm going to add Bob. You can decide what access privilege you want to give them. Do you want them to be able to write to the board? Do you want them to only be able to read the board? Do you want them to be able to edit or be a co-administrator with you? This choice will be particularly helpful if you have set your board to be moderated when students or other people post something to your board. And this, again, might be helpful for you so that you're not doing it all by yourself. And I'm going to leave this on Can Write and click on Save. So Bob has been added as a member of this board, kind of a co-collaborator with me. I now need to think about how I want the privacy settings to be. So I can click on Change Privacy. If I want it to be private, so that pretty much nobody would be able to find it, and if they do find it, they would have difficulty accessing it. Do you want your board to be password protected? Do you want it to be secret? So basically the only people that would see it would be those that received the link for this Padlet, and those people that you've directly shared it with would have access to it. Or do you want to make it public so that it's viewable to the whole world? It can be searched using Google or another search engine, and it could be a part of your profile. So again, what you choose is up to you. I tend to leave mine on either public or secret, depending on what my purpose is. For the sake of right now, I'll leave it on public so that anybody in the world who finds this board could, at this time, find it. And right now it's set to read only, but I can change that so that they can write to it, or they can edit it where they can view and add posts, edit and approve others' posts. I'm going to leave it on can write because I want them to be able to add posts. And so I will leave it on that. So the way I have it set right now is that anybody can find this Padlet, whether they search for it or I share it with them. And when they do find it, they will be able to write posts to it. I will click on the back button, and then it's ready to share. So the simplest way is to simply click on this copy link to clipboard. And if I click on that, it was copied to my clipboard. If I bring up a new browser real quick, paste that link, hit return. It visually looks the same to you right now, but what you might notice is that there is no icon here that shows that I'm logged on. So this is what it will look like for anybody that you would share it with. And you notice there's the pink button at the bottom. They can add a post that way, or in one of the other ways that I mentioned before, like double clicking somewhere on the screen. You can also share it by sharing a QR code. It can be embedded in your blog. You can email it. You can share it on social media. You can share it on your Google Classroom. And so once you click on that link, that takes you to your Google Classroom, assuming that you're logged into your Google account. You can choose the class and then create an assignment that way. So it is integrated with Google Classroom. And then there's some other ways that you can export it here as well. So we've added a member. We've set it so that it's public and visitors can write to it. And I've copied the link, and now we're ready to go. Just a reminder that at any time you can come up to the gear and modify your appearance settings again. You can make those changes at any time. And then lastly, on the right here, you've got 3 dots. If I click on that, I've got a few more options, and some of them are the same. But what I want to point out here is down at the bottom, you've got change format. So if you wanted to change the format of this board, you could do that at this point. I will caution you though, depending on what board you have chosen, if you switch to a different format in the middle of this process, there's a good chance that you might lose the content on your board because Padlet thinks you want to start fresh again. So that's where you want to really think about what the purpose of your board is when you first create it, what type of board you want to create, who you want to share it with, how you plan to share it, and what those privacy settings are going to look like. So again, Padlet is a very user-friendly digital bulletin board that is easily accessible for you and your students.